Alrighty guys, in this video we're going to be setting up our cinematic explosions. We're going to introduce you to the animation system of Unity. This is where the fun and exciting part of game development happens. It's when you're creating the visual effects that truly bring your game to life. Now, in here, we have two explosions in your sprites folder. We have an enemy explosion, which you're going to see here on the right. I'm kind of simulating it, where you have this awesome, beautiful effect designed specifically for our enemy. And then for our player, we have equally as beautiful, but it's just an explosion for the player. What we're going to be doing is we're going to animate these sprites into an animation sequence at about 60 frames per second. Might be 48 frames. We'll mess with the timing. And then what we're going to be doing is when we destroy the objects, we are going to instantiate this explosion effect, and it's automatically going to play at the position of the player or enemy that got destroyed. So let's get started. Here's how we create these sprite animations. In order to do this, we need to open up the animation window. Head on over to Window, Animation, and drag this into your game view. And let's go ahead and, next to your game view, and let's go ahead and take a look at this. So what I want you guys to do here is this is our animation view. This is where we're going to select a sprite and we're going to create an animation sequence out of it. So first thing to do in order to get started is let's do our player explosion first. Or, no, let's do the enemy explosion first. You're going to go ahead and take the first frame, you're going to put it in here, and let's go ahead and call this enemy_explosion. So enemy explosion. What I want you guys to do next is we are going to create a new animation clip. Now to keep things organized, I want you to go ahead and create a new folder, and let's call these animations. When you create an animation, it's going to create an animation clip, and then it's going to place that clip inside an animation controller. And that controller is what's going to automatically play our animation when we instantiate the explosion. And later in this course, we're going to get into more advanced animations with our player, and you'll be able to actually create visual state behaviors in the controller itself. But by default, the controller will automatically play the animation at the start of the game, or when it becomes enabled, which is when you spawn it in. So let's go ahead and hit this create button. We're going to create a new animation. Let's call this enemy_explosion, and select the folder that we just created. So animations. Save. And now what we have here is we have the ability to start recording an animation. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to select inside your sprites folder here, drop down the enemy sequence, and I want you to select your first frame and hold down your shift key and select the 157th frame and drag it all into here. Just drag it into the animation view. It should line up exactly like mine. And now what you can do is you can go ahead and sample this. If I play this, you'll see there it is. You can see it in the scene view. Right now, I'm running it at about 60 frames per second, and that actually looks really, really good. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it there. Go ahead and stop playing, and that's it. You can go in and we're done. So what we've done now is we've created our first animation clip. Go ahead and save your scene. Let's go ahead and go to our animations folder, and you'll see two things here. We have our animation clip, and then we have our enemy explosion controller. So the clip is the actual animation, and the controller is basically a visualization of the clips that this animation holds. So for example, go ahead and double click this enemy explosion controller, and this will open up the animator panel. And as you can see here, our enemy explosion controller has one animation clip called enemy explosion. And immediately from the entry, you have this navigation arrow that points to enemy explosion. So as soon as that game object becomes active, it's going to play this animation. Also, if you look on the enemy explosion here, when we created our animation clip, it automatically added the animator component and put our enemy explosion clip or controller into the controller slot. And again, to get to this animator view, you can go to Window, Animator, which is right here, or you can simply double click the controller, and this right here is our actual clip. Okay, so there's a couple things we want to do. By default, the animation is going to loop. We do not want it to loop. So in the animations folder in your project, select the animation, turn loop time off, save your scene, head back into your scene here and your game, and watch what happens when we run the game. You're going to see an explosion instantly. And there you go. So now what we want to do is we want to create this enemy explosion when the enemy actually gets destroyed. So to do that, we need to turn it into a prefab. So enemy explosion, prefab, and now we can go ahead and remove it from the scene here. And what I want you guys to do is we need to now instantiate this enemy explosion when the enemy ship gets destroyed. And you're going to instantiate it at its position. That's going to be your challenge, and I'll see you guys in the challenge review.